With 130 years of history, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters continues to be the vanguard of quality and craftsmanship in the construction industry. The varied skills of today's carpenters can be defined as one trade, many crafts. Next on Built to Last. Hi, I'm Bruce Obora. In this season of Built to Last, we discuss new materials and techniques that have continued a movement toward sustainability in the building trades. At the core of these best practices is the work of the skilled carpenter. The foundation of the many crafts that make up a carpenter's skill begins with the apprentice and training program that provides continuous education and sets a standard for quality and consistency in the construction industry.
The United Brotherhood of Carpenters is the governing organization for one of North America's largest unions in the building trades. With regional offices throughout the country, this facility in Elk Grove Village is a good example of the union's mission to translate 130 years of history into working knowledge for today's carpenter. Now let's take a look at the many trades of the union carpenter. We'll begin with pile driving, that's built to last.
Pile driving, basically in a nutshell, is below the ground foundation. You know, if you picture a high rise, as high as a building is above ground, usually you've got bearing that goes just as deep below ground. There's different types of pile that we drive. Some are friction, some would be end bearing. These happen to be friction piling. The ground here is heavy clay, so we're not having to drive them to rock. With the hammer we've got here is a smaller diesel hammer. We're driving probably from 45 to 50 foot lengths of pile. This is just one of many types of piling. We've got, traditionally we'll do sheet piling, which is a complete other different operation, used for shoring. If we're working next to a roadway and we've got a deep excavation, we'll put sheeting in and around where the guys need to work to hold back the soils. With us to be successful and to be competitive, my guys are usually certified welders, vast knowledge of cranes, and usually we'll go through quite a bit of training in rigging and whatnot, and then very good with burning and using a torch.
The carpenters are one of the first trades on construction projects. Using their training and job site experience, carpenters work comprehensively with the project delivery team using precision tools such as the total station for layouts. The measurements from these surveys are incorporated into software programs that produce three-dimensional models. The practice is known as BIM, or Building Information Modeling.
The new technology allows the instrument to track not only standard prisms or reflective surfaces like any total station, but it's allowing the operator to lay out in the field utilizing a laser point rather than having to rely on a rod and a prism. So this is increasing the productivity rates for all layout for interior purposes as well as exterior.
The use of total station technology has helped advance the craft of surveying. In the field, more and more general contractors are requiring this skill from their workforce.
I know some specific general contractors that they require the use of total stations by all trades on specific hospital projects to ensure that all the modeling that they've done on the front end allows for accurate installation once they get out into the field. So the only way to do that accurately and to the correct model space is utilizing a total station, especially because some of these projects are becoming more and more technically difficult to lay out with traditional methods.
The Chicago Regional Council of Carpenters has been a vanguard for sustainability in the construction industry. Their knowledge in formwork on the job extends to the classroom, where apprentices learn formwork standards and techniques. Victor Cerrone is an instructor for the apprentice and training program.
First system that we're working on is a John clamp system. A John clamp consists of 3/4 inch plywood, and you have your ties depending on the thickness of the wall. You'll come in and throw in your ties. Once you throw in your ties and make sure you nail this to the bottom plate, you come around to this side and you install your John clamps. Your John clamps they do a couple things. The John clamps are going to take the 2x4 or receive the 2x4, and the 2x4 is going to keep the wall intact and also is going to keep the wall nice and straight.
In addition to John clamps, Simon's forms are also a standard formwork solution in foundations today. Training with formwork for the pouring of concrete foundations is a skill that carpenters learn at the training center. The old adage of a carpenter, measure twice and cut once, is still at play as concrete foundations require a degree of perfection. Just like the carpenter understands the application of new tools, the advancement in new materials for construction has also raised the bar for a well-trained carpenter. On the job site, one example of new materials is the insulated concrete form.
The genius of the insulated concrete form is in its simplicity. It's basically just two expanded polystyrene panels that are held together by a polypropylene web. In most of the manufacturers today, this web is 100% regrind, so right there about 60% of the weight of this form is a recycled product.
As the foundation sets, general contractors rely on carpenters for the next phase of construction. Look around at any high-rise under construction, and you'll see the work of a skilled carpenter. Moving inside the structure of a commercial building, you can see a carpenter is required to have an abundant skill set. Framing, spray foam insulation, drywall hanging is just the beginning of the crafts required to complete a commercial building.
Well, over the years, early on, there was a lot of wood framing, mostly all wood framing. Metal framing became more prevalent. It seems to be a faster, easier method. We do see a lot of manufactured wood products, LVLs, beams, plates. They're stronger. They can be manufactured in lengths that you can't get common lumber in, and they're readily available.
At the Carpenters Apprentice and Training Center, instructor Craig Triplett explains the elements of the building envelope. Hours in the classroom assure safety and building code compliance on projects requiring trained carpenters.
Over here, same thing, we have basically less material being used. And what we're doing also with advanced framing is we're allowing our headers to be properly sized.
Okay.
Where they used to just be, say, a 2x12s being put into place. Now we're sizing them properly, so this is a 2x6 that's on its side, which isn't supportive. But with our roof truss going the other direction, our main support would be on this side of the wall.
Okay.
So there's no weight bearing on this length of the wall. So rather than putting a header in somewhere where we don't need it, we can actually fill that cavity now with more insulation. So now we have a more thermally comfort building.
Whereas before, normal process would kind of come in, double everything up because it's an opening, regardless of how it's being treated.
We would be putting 2-3 studs in place, extra material in here, which reduces the amount of insulation being allowed into that wall cavity.
Okay.
On our insulation here, this little paper, this craft face paper, is a vapor barrier. So that vapor barrier is important because it keeps the vapor from inside of our building from migrating into our building cavity, which in the wintertime may be a lot colder than our interior of our building. Well, what happens is with that moisture going into our building cavity, if it goes below the dew point, the temperature in there, we get condensation to occur. we get condensation, then we're going to have the molds and mildews building up inside of our wall cavity. We're going to have health issues.
Sure.
So it's important we have a vapor barrier put in place right next to our thermal, and that's why it's critical that we also have our air sealing in our building done properly. Another thing that we do, you know, we've added insulation, we've added extra rigid foam insulation just to get a higher R value, a larger thermal resistance to that heat flow.
Some of the more detailed work in today's commercial building comes from experienced lathers.
Lathing was involved in residential construction. They installed these wood strips with a 1/4-inch gap, which was called wood lath. And as it progressed in time, then it came into 1.5-inch iron, 3/4 iron, and then metal lath.
Historically, lathing was a carpenter's job when building residential structures. With the introduction of metal lath, carpenters continue to hone their skills as they establish more efficient ways to construct the intricate design feature of a modern commercial building.
One thing that's good about these products is, with lath, we could use anything that an architect creates. With domes, with groin vaults, with segmental barrels, serpentine ceilings, we still need to use these products in order to create with metal lath. We could use drywall, but it's hard to conform drywall to these shapes. So lathing's been in this industry to make an architectural dream exist.
When it comes to the interior of a commercial building, a carpenter's skill is evident from the floor to the ceiling.
Beginning with floor coverings, there are many different types of finishes that will add years of use to the maintenance and comfort of the building. Like carpeting, wood and vinyl floor coverings proper installation is the key, and the Carpenter's Apprentice and Training Center provides ample time for carpenters to hone this skill.
This is an office space, public area with private offices on the inside, and we have two types of material going down in this area. We have, on the inside is a carpet tile, and on the outside we have a broadloom, 12-foot wide goods as a border, a 1-foot border. Both are made by Maslin, and that is a product made in the USA, which is 100% recycled content and also LEED qualified. So what Gary's doing right now is he's putting in the outfill to finish up the area, and he's applying a seam sealer right now made by the manufacturer that'll help connect the two products to seal it in together.
Okay. Does that act as something to keep from unraveling as well? Or
Right. I guess you can compare it to the sheet vinyl weld. It's going to weld both pieces together so there's no fraying that it's going to occur over time, and kind of mesh it all as a one-piece system.
All the interior amenities of a commercial building are also the handiwork of a skilled carpenter. Historically, millwork referred to any wood product fabricated in a mill, usually the lumber. As a craft, millwork includes a variety of decorative components such as doors, window casings, and cabinets.
One of the most important sustainable strategies that Pepper Construction Company's employed here at Barrington's White House is reusing and restoring existing millwork. That is helping us, instead of harvesting new trees and making products out of new wood, we're able to use the existing wood and put it back into place, not only to maintain the historical character of the building, but again, to conserve resources. And in order to be able to do that, you have to have a master carpenter that knows how to reuse the wood properly.
Master carpenter Tony Frazone was in charge of the wood restoration for Pepper Construction. A union carpenter with more than 30 years on the job, his experience was put to the test.
This column was rotted on the bottom. So what I've done with this column is I've cut a V in it, got all the rotting out. I'm gonna re-glue it and join it into here with cedar. And then we're gonna continue these flutes through and patch it. The other column is another one where it is glued together, and the glue off it fell apart. So this one's all in pieces. So as you can see, it creates a circle as you go around. So as you can see, you create the column as it's put together. kind of like almost like a whiskey barrel.
While nothing can replace craftsmanship, technology can lend a helping hand. From the job site to the classroom, the Chicago Regional Council of Carpenters Apprentice and Training Center offers courses that teach practical applications for construction concepts, such as building information modeling.
The reason I teach building information modeling, or BIM for short, at the Carpenters Training Center is to educate the tradespeople on the information that they're going to start to be receiving out in the field. Information that used to be coming in paper-only documentation is now going to start coming electronically. So the technology and the BIM process is allowing us to actually change how carpenters could be working. Instead of traditional tape measure, laying out walls, now we can gather information from the model, utilize technology to lay out points or lines on the floor for us almost automatically.
Instructors like Dwayne Lindsay teach new methods of collaboration between the design and construction, a process called BIM modeling, a practice that is becoming a growing trend in the industry.
The information that we're getting from our models and the information that we can now produce and send out to our subcontractors, and even specifically carpenters, is so much more than what we could do before with a traditional paper 2D process. So building information modeling has really helped people become more efficient.
A good general contractor knows the skill set needed on the job, and that's one reason the Carpenters Apprentice and Training Center offers continuous education and training for the increasing demands of the trade.
The labor is actually the most important part of it, because what you have is, going back to your layout has to be where it belongs, and it's important to use your training as a carpenter to bring that aspect of it to it, because if the layout in the beginning isn't correct, nothing else will follow. So you really want to do the project one time from the beginning, starting from the layout correctly, and then everything will flow together from there.
Overhead, the ceiling in a commercial building presents many challenges as designs vary from structure to structure. A carpenter is tasked not only with a custom installation, but an eye for the needs of other trades and building code requirements.
Even though when you think of carpenters, you think of wood, and we strictly work with metals, the carpenter's skills are still all the same skills. Plumb, level, square, this is what you're looking for when you install a ceiling. So the tools and knowledge that you'd use as a wood carpenter is the same tools you use to install the grid ceiling.
Outside the siding, soffit and roof are three more labor-intensive crafts that require just as much knowledge of new materials as the skills for proper installation. The Carpenters Apprentice and Training Center is home base for learning the complexities of roof installation. Veteran carpenter Tony Mathis instructs us on what to look for in today's roof construction.
So this establishes your starting run.
Correct. Now what I'm going to do following this is I'm going to put a full shingle on each one of them, and once I get up to here, I do this same pattern up again.
Right.
Okay? So I'm going to install another shingle over here and work my way up.
So what you're doing now is very important visually, because you get that overall look once you're done to assure when you look up at the roof, your lines, everything's straight in your pattern.
Exactly. All of these slots right here, if you look up the roof, they'll be in a perfect straight line. All because of this line that we chalked over here.
Sure.
This line here keeps them straight going horizontally. Like I said, the next step would be to cut 6 inches off, then 12 inches off, and etc.
So the same pattern you started with, you continue up. Great.
Exactly.
And this continues up for the length of the roof and down to through side.
And just keep working this way and up.
Okay, great.
In the carpentry trade, we don't always work with wood anymore. And so going forward into the future, carpenters got to be able to work with and deal with many different materials and applications of those materials. And welding sets you up to really be able to do a lot of different things.
Try to keep that in the green. More and more contractors are requiring it. Now they want people certified. They got to have the job go right. They want someone that's experienced, know what they're doing. Well, the millwrights, they get different training up to that point, with the pumps. When they get to the pump, part of their training, we have them actually take a pump apart. They take the packing out, they repack it. They'll pull the power end apart. They take the bearings off. They mic the bearings. They check the shaft. They figure out mathematically how much they got to heat that bearing up to make it fit on the shaft. If it's an interference fit. They got the mechanical seal. They got to set the mechanical seal in the correct position. The blade clearance on the impeller. They got to set the proper impeller clearance. So they totally disassemble the pump and rebuild it. They could do something as simple as a straight edge of feeler gauge to get it, which is not as accurate. Then they got dial indicators. And you put a dial indicator on it, you roll it around the coupling, and those reads within thousandths of an inch. And then using a formula, they can figure out how much shim they got to change to get it correct. And then we also have lasers out there. We have a couple in our shop too, and they train on how to set the laser up, how to punch in the correct dimensions and all that, and how to read it and make the correct moves to get that motor aligned to that pump. Well, with the water plants and water filtration plants like that, that's the majority of their equipment in there are pumps and motors. And so they, millwrights got to know how to set the pump correctly and safely, and put the motor in with the pump and align it so it runs efficiently without any breakdown or downtime. Almost anything mechanical in the water treatment plant, but you have the traveling screens there, which, just skims the water or whatever. All the pumps involved in it, putting the new pumps in, putting the motors in to align it to the pumps. So the pieces of equipment are, some of them are millions of dollars, and when you want that thing to be aligned perfectly, because if it's not aligned right, well, you're putting wear on the seals of the pump, the bearings, the motor, bearings on the motor. All that stuff wears out. And not only if it's not aligned right, it's also drawing more electricity. The more precise that it's precisely that it's aligned, easier it's going to run, longer it's going to last, and it's going to save the customer at the end more money.
As you can see, the trade has grown to encompass a variety of essential skills that require apprenticeships and training. Just as important is the opportunity to apply these skills on a job. After all, it is a hands-on skill that makes carpentry a craft. Beyond these traditional crafts, the millwrights are the backbone for the installation and maintenance of renewable energy equipment.
Wind turbines built on the direction of signatory contractors take advantage of the relationship between carpenters and millwrights. During various phases of construction, both crafts rely on each other.
Carpenters typically do the formwork associated with the base of the tower, and millwrights typically work with other craft in the erection of the tower. Millwrights, via our training and our certification with hydraulic tensioning tools, we would tension the tower as it goes up. When the head is put on the tower, we would set the head and tension that head as well. And we also build the rotor system, and we put the rotor system on it and then align all the components associated with it.
Over at Chicago's McCormick Place, you'll find another example of carpenters applying their skills to the building of convention exhibits. Every trade show needs a team of carpenters to execute their vision on the show floor, like this high-tech manufacturing convention. Days before a convention can open its doors to the public in the vast exhibit halls of Chicago's premier convention facility, carpenters are hard at work laying the foundation for flooring. This important first step is always customized to the client's specifications and designed for the maximum comfort of conventioneers. While time is always a factor, care is taken to execute the proper layout. Every display element the carpenter installs enhances the exhibit on the show floor. After the rigging is in place, these larger-than-life exhibits often require hours of setup to complete the detailed construction of the display elements. While the exhibits are modular in design, only a union carpenter has the skills to ensure that the installation of convention exhibits are both durable and safe. Chicago is a showcase city for many consumer and industrial conventions, where carpenters contribute in large part to the success of every spectacular show.
Poised to be the engine that drives innovation in construction, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and their affiliates continue to train and expose another generation of tradesmen to the crafts that have built this 130-year-old organization. I'm Bruce Obora. Thank you for watching this episode of Built to Last.
Visit the Built to Last website to learn about these topics and more.